listeners. My name is Rob, and I'm here virtually alongside my co-hosts Noah.
Hello.
And Em.
Hi.
The regular cast of Fax Machine, a podcast by and for people who are curious about everything, but especially the things that make them laugh. And joining us today for a very special episode, she's out of this world, she's a star, she's a supermassive deal, and we're lucky to be in her orbit. It's Moiya McTier!
Hello. I'm
Welcome!
So glad to be back. Thank you. Oh, good friends at Fax Machine welcoming me back. I love it.
You're home. Welcome home.
This is probably one of the first podcasts I was ever a guest on. Probably.
Ooh.
Wow, I can't believe we were there at the beginning.
Yeah,
It's like
really.
such an honor for us, truly.
Oh, and for me. Trust
Setting you
me.
down this path. I mean, really.
So if I ever make some big podcasting blunder one day, I'll just blame you.
Well, that's totally
it's
fine. Yeah, you
part
learned
of the
it from us.
territory.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
The Fax Machine guys never said anything about this, so I... So Moiya, you are a freshly minted PhD in astrophysics, is that correct?
Wow.
That is correct. I'm Dr. Moiya now.
That is
Doctor.
absolutely fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And you also host the wildly fun and imaginative show ExoLore. You are a folklorist, a fan of Iceland, and one of our favorite guests.
Rob, can you please make my business cards? I didn't realize that's how I wanted to be introduced, but yeah, that was perfect.
Moiya, for our listeners, could you remind everyone what ExoLore is and why they should listen to it right after this?
Yes, I can. Thank you. So ExoLore is actually a portmanteau of the words exoplanet and folklore. So the idea of the show is that we are using the facts and the truths that really dominate our reality here on Earth and using those and applying them to alien worlds to try and imagine what life and culture might be like there. I invite panels of guests. I interview other world builders to learn about the tricks of their trade. It's a fun podcast all about fictional world building. And so if you like new worlds, or if you want to create some of your own, or if you like folklore and how it intersects with science in cool artistic ways, then ExoLore is the show for you.
That's awesome.
And if you like Fax Machine, you probably like all those things, so you should definitely head over immediately.
Right. Although if you only listen to Fax Machine for the puns, as I have said on Twitter, there aren't that many over at ExoLore.
That's why I gave it 4 stars, actually. It just wasn't enough.
Oh, that one 4-star review is you.
Wow.
Ironically, on a podcast about exoplanet, not enough stars.
So, Moiya, it's always a pleasure because you have kind of made folklore and astrophysics your life's work, and today we're actually going to take it easy and talk about neither, but we want to explore the topic of holidays and take a little summer holiday.
That's folklore.
That's true.
Totally.
Yeah, plenty of it in holidays.
As I think we will find quite a bit. Yeah, so today, Noah, Em, and Moiya are going to phone in one fact of some story or a singular celebration, and I'll wrap things up with a pub-style trivia quiz loosely inspired by the theme of holidays. So, with no further ado, let's jet with Noah's fact.
Thanks, Rob. So this one was tough because, unfortunately, on this podcast, we've already covered my favorite holiday, and that is the medieval Catholic Feast of the Ass, which was observed from the 11th to 15th century on the 14th of January, and it was basically celebrated the various contributions of donkeys in Christian scripture. So as we discussed at the time, part of the service that was celebrating the Feast of the Ass was sort of like a little play in which, at a certain point, an actor playing one of the prophets would ride a, quote, gorgeously caparisoned ass, which he would, quote, goad with his spurs.
Dear.
And of course, the reality of this is that oftentimes the donkey who was being goaded with spurs was often just another actor who potentially drew like the short straw that morning. But so then the congregation would sing a hymn that included the lyrics, "Up, Sir Ass, and sing, open your pretty mouth. Hay will be yours in plenty and oats in abundance." I mean, and then And then instead of just dismissing them with the traditional "thanks be to God, alleluia, alleluia," or whatever, the priest would say "hee-haw, hee-haw," and the people would respond likewise.
I just need to clarify. Is that a joke or are you being serious?
No, this is all 100% real.
Oh, wow.
And it was all covered. You might ask, if you're listening right now, if Noah, we have already heard about this in episode 31, so why rehash this now? Well, the reason is that this week I learned that there was a related day on the medieval Catholic liturgical calendar in which social and religious hierarchies were inverted, and more or less all hell broke loose. It was known as the Feast of Fools.
Ooh.
So let's say you are strolling through Paris in 1445 and you see a letter from the theology faculty of the University of Paris describing a party, and you want to decide whether or not you should check out that party. Well, that's too bad because you almost certainly cannot read. But let's say you were able to flag down a clergyman who is fluent in Latin who can read you out the details of this party. So it goes as follows. Priests and clerks may be seen wearing masks and monstrous visages. They dance in the choir dressed as women. They sing wanton songs. They eat black puddings. That's a bit of a weird one. They play at dice. They sense with stinking smoke from the soles of old shoes.
What?
They run and leave. Yeah. So the sense would be like in church where there would be like the incense like swinging.
Right,
So-
but it's just
so it
some
would
gym
be-
socks inside instead of myrrh.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Instead of
I'm there.
incense, it was insoles.
Insoles or gym sense.
There we
Yeah.
go.
So they would it was sensing with they sense with stinking smoke from the soles of old shoes. They run and leap through the church without a blush at their own shame. Right about this time, you're probably thinking, "Wow, this sounds amazing. Where can I sign up?" I know, me too. But as your clergyman reads on, it starts to dawn on you that the people writing this don't necessarily think this is a good thing. I know it sounds crazy because all of those things are objectively good. Like, it is a moral imperative to eat pudding in church if you are given even half a chance. I mean, it seems very clear to me. But anyway, the letter goes on. We feel compelled to describe how much we abhor and how much we execrate. I had to look up that word. It means to feel great loathing for.
Ooh, that's good. I'm using
How much we abhor and how much we execrate a certain kind of ritual of merriment, which is called by its damnable and pagan organizers the Feast of Fools.
Oh, damn, tell me how you really feel, medieval priests.
Right. And it's also kind of like, depending on the audience, it's like, stop selling, I already want to go. Like, but they basically then go on to include a bunch of things you absolutely should not do, like elect a bishop, archbishop, or pope of fools, which is basically could be like a lay person who is, sort of like elected by basically a rabble of people. And such a pope of fools should certainly not conduct a divine service or bless anyone. And conversely, priests should not shed their clerical dress and, while dressed as lay people, take part in theatrical plays or other games involving impersonation, especially in the presence of a large crowd. This actually may be a direct criticism of traditions such as the Feast of the Ass, which would have fallen under this umbrella, since like this whole basically in-church drama of like a prophet riding the donkey up the center of the aisle and being sort of harangued by, or the rider of the donkey who was sort of rudely goading it with its spurs is harangued by an angel who's like, "Don't you know? This is a donkey who has done all these great things for our religion." It's basically how it goes. And so, interestingly, the Feast of Fools is prominently featured right at the beginning of Victor Hugo's Hunchback of Notre Dame, in which, quote, "a knot of these merry wights, who after knocking the glass out of one of the windows had boldly seated themselves on the entablature, and thence cast their eyes and their jokes alternately within and without. Down with the rector, the electors, and the proctors. Down with the master Andry, the beadles, and the scribes. Down with the theologians, the physicians, and the discretists," or the discretists, potentially. And this is just, if this quote is just too long, I'll edit it, but I just wanted to include this because it's fun. "As for the scholars, they swore lustily." It was their day, their feast of fools, their Saturnalia, the annual orgies of the clerks of Parliament and of the schools. There was no turpitude but was authorized on that day. Was it not the least they could do to swear at their ease, and to curse a little in the name of God, on so fine a day in the good company of churchmen and loose women? Accordingly, they made good use of the license, and amid the general uproar, horrible was the clamor of the blasphemies and enormities proceeding from the tongues thus let loose, the tongues of clerks and scholars restrained during the rest of the year by fear of the red-hot iron of St. Louis.
That turned from like a nice little goofy day, like an opposite day, and then it turned into just like a thirst trap
Exactly.
for all of these priests. What happened?
It's true. It does kind of like pervading all these stories. Like there is the sort of like idea that, you just get these ironically puritanical sort of Catholics and medieval Catholics, soon to be thought were heretics by the Puritans for, a lot of the same reasons, I guess. Like there's this vein that pervades all these stories of like, they're just, clamping too hard down on society, but also of like, these stories could sound like they could really get out of hand. Like there's basically a lot of things of like pelting priests and sort of higher members of society with like fruit and that kind of vibe, where it's like every single year, and it's usually it was in the Hunchback of Notre Dame, it's actually on January 6th, but it was most often, I think, from what I read, about January 1st. It was sort of associated with things like the New Year and celebrations that had, long happened around that time of the year and had been associated with raucous partying and social inversion. But I'll talk about that in a little bit.
It's just, it's one of those things, though, that where like the description is so explicit that it's like, you better not dress up as a priest, and if you do, you better not elect a pope, and if you do,
yeah, exactly. That's exactly the same thing I thought, because if you, in your warning to not do something, include a provision for what happens if they do the first thing you've said they can't do, then you've already given them too much leeway.
Yeah, it's a little permissive.
Yeah, but basically on this topic, it's actually kind of unclear to what degree we can trust the accuracy of the accounts of contemporary, albeit disgruntled clerics who basically were seeking to abolish this festival, and also like Victor Hugo, authors who lived centuries later and who were hoping to use this festival to establish dramatic tension, basically. But whatever the case may be, the Feast of Fools was supposed to represent a temporary social revolution, characterized by the inversion of hierarchies, potentially a great deal more scripted and with a clearer doctrinal purpose than the eventual descriptions of it would imply. For instance, this idea of inversion was meant to emphasize the importance of humility throughout the Bible. For example, the phrases, the first will be last and the last will be first, occurs throughout the Bible. And the concept of foolishness for Christ, which is kind of a funny term, but to be a fool for Christ, which basically in this religion implies behavior such as like giving away all your possessions and like going to become a monk, or demonstratively disregarding social conventions for in the context of this story, which is important, as a display of like religiosity or for some other religious purpose.
It's okay to be a weirdo if you do it for Jesus. Like,
I've definitely seen like memes and tweets about simping for Jesus, and I'm glad to know that the Bible accounts for that too.
Simping for Jesus. I love the idea of like comments on people's prayers. Like, he's not gonna see this, bro. But look, so it's also true though that there are other aspects of other holidays, such as Christmas with its wassailing. Have you ever heard of that? Wassailing, that the Puritans ironically hated so much as well. Maybe they had more in common with the Catholic than they thought. And St. Nicholas's Day in December, in which a choir boy would be elected boy bishop. And they would be dressed in bishop's robes and allowed to give a sermon, or even as in like the Feast of the Ass, in which a lowly donkey was given an entire mass in its honor. I mean, this is a contradiction that is celebrated in festivals like this, which it shouldn't pass notice that these are all around the same time and very likely linked to the same kind of like origins, possibly pre-existing Christianity. So There are even like pre-Christian festivals such as Saturnalia or the Calends of January. Calends, despite the fact that it sounds like the end of a calendar, actually means the first of the month. So basically New Year's, also, which existed around this time of the year, in which both social inversion and raucous partying are also like heavily featured. And it's often really tempting to draw a straight line between something like Saturnalia and the Feast of Fools, even if there are like official origins for the practices. But it doesn't really have to be like a rebranded Saturnalia to capture that kind of pre-existing religious zeal and redirect it toward the worship of what, became the new state religion. And there are lots and lots of traditions and modern holidays that were originally, or at least used to be, part of separate feast days or local traditions that got wedged into like the Christian molding due to the movement of these holidays around the liturgical calendar or the shifting social, political, and religious priorities of the societies deciding to celebrate them prominently or not. And for me, this idea that for like obscure or potentially arbitrary reasons, hundreds of years ago, one holiday could have been just moved to the same day as another, could then adopt its traditions and grow in prominence until now we all have to do awkward Secret Santa gift exchanges at school or work with people we may not know well, and created situations like, for me, when I was in 4th grade, where my Secret Santa forgot to get me something, and then when the moment came, just gave me a stapler that belonged to the school.
Did you get to keep it?
No. And it just brings home this idea that so many of the traditions associated with these holidays are essentially just the like chaotic fractal outgrowths of shoddy admin. Like, and that all of our like cherished cultural associations with holidays like Christmas, such as reunions with family, exchanging gifts, drinking and being merry, enjoying a warm evening by chestnuts on the fire or the Christmas tree or under the oft maligned for good reason mistletoe, are basically just like these chimeric, unpredictable consequences of lazy scheduling on a world full of people who fundamentally just want to hang out and have a good time. So this January 1st, when it comes around, have a happy new year / Feast of Fools / also the day of Jesus' circumcision, which you would really think would factor into the story more than it has.
Shout out to the Holy Prepuce.
Exactly. And to all from Fax Machine, a good night.
I feel like in that rant, I saw your inner child die a little bit.
I can just imagine Noah in grad school in the labs, like, we're going to do a Secret Santa. Noah's like, no.
No,
like,
I really do have an aversion to it.
We have to, Noah. It's a staple of our Christmas traditions. And Noah's just like, no.
No! It's hostile. I can't work here.
This week I learned that, if you're mathematically inclined, you might be celebrating holidays regarding approximate pies and 17-toed yellow pigs.
Wait, whoa. 17-toed yellow pigs?
I'm confused and intrigued.
Oh, just buckle in. Perfect.
I think I know where
that
we're
was
going.
a success.
That's so intriguing. I feel like somebody should do a fact about that on a podcast.
Lucky you. So, in casting out my lines to hook a fact of interest for this episode, I started looking into holidays or special days among mathematical sorts. And in doing so, I unearthed 2 little stories that really tickled me, quite frankly. And since it always pains me to kill my trivia darlings, I'm actually serving up a 2-for-1 special of mathematical holiday mini facts. Yeah.
Dang.
So without further ado, fact number 1 is actually inspired by our very own Rob. So Rob is,
I'm
if
so
anybody,
excited.
Yes. So Rob is, if anyone somehow managed to not notice, a very vocal Pi Day enthusiast. His annual newsletter, which he sends out on Pi Day, is at this point famous. And quite frankly, I mean, Rob, you can step in if I'm overstepping, but if you want to subscribe, just, hit us up on our socials. You'll get added to the list. It is a coveted newsletter for sure. But every year, Rob sends out a newsletter featuring poetry, like a Cat in the Hat parody, jokes, of course, lots of puns, all as a sort of like collective artistic ode to everyone's favorite, constantly irrational constant. So Pi is the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter, and if you'd like to learn more about it, I highly recommend Googling it because, as I discovered earlier today, on Google you'll encounter a delightful digits of pi memorization game at the top of the search page right now when you search pi. So, recommending that.
I'm doing that right now.
Yeah. Right now. All right,
I'm
Noah's
not
just
going to
tuning
do
out
that
for the
because
rest of
I
this.
know I only can get like 5 digits, and I just don't want to live with that humiliation.
Well, so it teaches you. So
It's
it's
like Simon, right?
Exactly. So
Yeah,
it's
it
like
gives you
here are
one
the
digit
first
each
3,
time.
and then you type it, and then 4, and then you type it. So it's to help
Okay.
with memorization.
I definitely didn't tweet that on Pi Day this year.
I rest my case. But my fact is not about Pi Day, but rather about alternate Pi Days, which do apparently exist and give Rob another 2 days a year to celebrate, which I imagine involves leaving gifts under the geometry, smooching under the mistletoe, and generally getting down with his rad self.
Rad.
love
Wow.
Yes.
I had some time today, and this is just what happens
That's
when I
very
have
good.
time.
I'm still so excited about this.
So, speaking of mistletoe, the first alternate Pi Day in the calendar year is Tau Day, which falls on June 28th. So, Tau is equal to 2 times pi, so 6.28. And proponents of using Tau over pi, which, from what I saw, is a thing that is discussed in various math community threads and internet blogs, suggest that you recognize it by eating twice the pie as you would on Pi Day. Sounds good to me. And then the second pi, or pi-related holiday, is Pi Approximation Day, which falls on July 22nd. And it's assigned to that day for the fraction 22 over 7, which equals an approximation of pi. And to toss it back to Rob one more time, I have a sneaking suspicion that you're somehow behind Pi Approximation Day. And that's because if you go to piapproximationday.com, all you'll find is a static page with the header of 22 over 7. Makes sense. And then below it, the lyrics for a parody version of the song Losing My Religion, in which the narrator is approximate pi, or the fraction, comparing itself to actual pi. And it's really good. And it's a very Rob thing to do.
Wow. I can just imagine it. That's me with no corners. That's me with the...
you gotta, I know you will, but you gotta look it up. It's really good.
So, Rob, do you get a lot of people in your mentions, correcting things that you say about Pi Day? That they would be called repie guys?
I mean...
Or alternatively, reply pies. Whichever one you want. We can...
Reply pies.
Works both ways.
I'd be much more okay with people correcting me on the internet if they also gave me a pie along with the correction.
Totally.
It'd be like the pies of admission. Or
Oh my
Yeah.
Wow. No, there are no corrections because the pies is right.
Hey, there we go. We've hit it now. So my second story is about a very quirky little holiday called Yellow Pig Day, which is celebrated every year on July 17th. So yellowpigday.com, the most reputable source of Yellow Pig Day information, explains its origins as such.
That's so funny.
You good?
Sorry, that really took me by surprise.
You never know what's going to hit you. It's okay.
Go ahead.
So from the website, Yellow Pig Day originated in the 1960s when 2 math students from Princeton spent time obsessively analyzing the number 17. They went a little crazy and decided to invent the concept of a yellow pig with 17 toes and 17 teeth. Now, Yellow Pig Day, July 17th, is an important part of the academic calendar and is celebrated with cake, carols, and general revelry.
Wow.
Pigs don't even have toes.
Yes. As I keep going, you will find many more holes in this holiday. That are easily pokeable. Yellow Pig Day also, at least until 2017, was a self-described collaborative art project with various artists submitting pieces in celebration of other strange holidays, such as Help a Horse Day, Lima Bean Respect Day, and Sneak Some Zucchini Onto Your Neighbor's Porch Day, which, while they all fall on different days, altogether to me sound like an ideal Sunday afternoon. And they are all real holidays, somehow. It's amazing. But the explanation of Yellow Pig Day, at least on its website, is pretty scant. It's, like I said, just what I read you at the beginning. So it left me with a lot of questions. And I figured, perhaps naively, that looking into the mathematicians who devised and have since upheld Yellow Pig Day might provide some answers. And I have to say, the answers that I did find, number one, produced infinitely more questions, and number two, are bafflingly bizarre in and of themselves. But here's what I've learned about the nerds behind the so-called cult of the yellow pig. And that is a phrase that they use surrounding this holiday. So brace yourselves.
If they describe themselves as a cult, they're usually not as threatening.
That's true. A self-aware cult.
It's a good acid test, yeah.
Is a pretty okay cult, maybe. So, for starters, the two mathematicians who invented it, Michael Spivak and David Kelly, are indeed certifiably obsessed with the number 17. David Kelly, who's now professor at Hampshire College, founded a summer program there for mathematically inclined high school students. And during the summer program, every year, he gives a lecture on the number 17, citing various sociocultural, historical, and mathematical associations with 17 in his argument that it's essentially king among digits. Even challenging naysayers to approach him with any rival number and a property that distinguishes it from 17. And then he meets them in that challenge by countering with two similar, and as he's probably argued, totally better in every way, properties of 17. And I've encountered a few documents that kind of summarize some highlights from this lecture. And while there are some compelling and well-researched kind of distinctions held by 17, so for example, under the Bible category of one of the documents, his sort of citations include that the word 17 is used 17 times in the Bible.
That's special.
And the sum of squared primes up to 17, right, is the number of the beast. Ooh, mystique, spooky. There are some more tenuously significant, but not wrong, sort of arguments that he cites as well, including there are almost 17 ounces in a pound. Leonardo da Vinci painted more than 17 paintings, and 17 is the only prime exactly equal to 17.
17, yeah.
But this same summer program, in tandem with his lecture, also hosts an annual Yellow Pig Math Day, involving a bunch of food and math and yellow pig adorned t-shirts and the singing of parody songs with titles such as March of the Yellow Pigs, Prime Warp, and a theorem that I used to know. So Yellow Pig Day is also supposedly celebrated in math departments at universities all over the place. And as an aside, I didn't come across documented instances of its celebration elsewhere. So if any listeners have heard of this, please hit us up. We list the socials at the end. Just search Fax Machine Podcast. I'm emphasizing that because I really want to know. I spent way too long looking into this.
If anybody comes across the number 17 anywhere, that'd be... If you could just let us know every single time.
If you can find a prime number that is not 17 but is exactly equal to 17, I would like to know about that.
Yes.
Yeah. We would break some news with that, I think.
Ooh, for sure. Also, faithful followers of the yellow pig tradition have been known to collect yellow pig ephemera. So I stumbled upon at least two mathematicians' blogs, including one alumna of the high school program, showcasing their collections of yellow pig figurines, stuffed toys, etc. And David Kelly himself is rumored to possess anywhere between 289 and 4,913 yellow pigs. 289 being, of course, 17 squared, and 4,913 being 17 cubed. They don't miss a chance.
Wow.
They just don't, ever. And then back to the other founder of Yellow Pig Day, Michael Spivak. So he's also, as you might now expect, a character. He's known for authoring several textbooks with topics such as differential geometry and calculus, and they themselves are peppered with Easter egg-like references to yellow pigs and 17. And he's released them, which is just a little thing that I think is kind of fun, through his publishing company called Publish or Perish Incorporated.
Your publisher Paris is kind of an amazing name for something. I don't know what yet.
That is, that's much more enticing of an option than Publisher Perish.
Good point.
Yeah, publish
Oh
or just
no, I couldn't publish. Well, Noah, you know what happens if you can't publish in grad school. We send you to Paris. Oh, sacre bleu.
But outside of mathematics, he's also known for introducing and popularizing a set of gender-neutral pronouns referred to as Spivak pronouns. So they first appeared in his book on LaTeX software, which basically just uses code to prepare really precisely formatted documents. And the words that he puts forth as pronouns are sort of compiled from a mixture of previously suggested gender-neutral terminology, and essentially uses they constructions, but with dropping the th. So instead of they, them, and their, you have a, em, and air. And this, as you can probably guess, is totally an aside from the pig stuff, but the way these pronouns caught on and were spread is actually really cool to me. So bear with me for a hot sec. So he proposed the pronouns in this book as a way to avoid specifying the gender of LaTeX users in the examples in the book. But they were picked up by game designers and later players of this multiplayer text-based RPG sort of game called Lambda Mu to serve their purposes for referring to each other in chat rooms, since they couldn't tell their fellow gamers' genders from their usernames or anything else. So it's neat in that they sort of became like a tool to accommodate sort of gender-neutral spaces on the internet. And it is still today, while it's not the most prevalent set of gender-neutral or non-binary pronouns, it is still used by some genderqueer and gamer online communities. And I just thought it was kind of cool how these pronouns were sort of like propagated as a tool to fit these very specific communication needs in these really niche spaces. In a way showing kind of how universal, the utility of gender-neutral language actually is, but also then like making these terms more widely available for anyone to identify with them. So it's kind of a fun aside. But anyways,
That's nice.
This is all to say that while I still don't get entirely how Yellow Pig Day became a thing, or how it's still a thing, or to what extent it's celebrated by people outside of that one summer program at Hampshire College, it strikes me as the sort of goofy, nerdy thing that brings people together and welcomes individual interpretation. With that, I say a happy Yellow Pig Day to all, and I know that I will be celebrating somehow.
Nice.
Yeah, and July 17th, which this might come after, but there will be talk
Yeah.
before that.
Who knows?
We'll see.
If it does come after, that leaves you a lot of time to plan how you'll celebrate next year.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yes.
Imagine this comes out the
Exactly.
day before and everyone has to rush to plan their Yellow Pig Day. That would
Nobody wants that.
Just rush ordering yellow pigs on Amazon.
Right. It's too late. They're not going to be delivered at that time. You got to plan ahead, and that's why our potentially expanding release schedule is better for everyone.
There we go. It's really a public service.
This fact that I'm going to tell you is not something I learned this week. It's something that I learned on the day of my second COVID vaccine shot. So I got it on May 1st. It was a Saturday, and I got it at the Javits Center in New York, which was just incredibly efficient at getting me through the line. And then there's a section where they ask everyone to wait their 15 minutes afterwards just to see if you have any sort of reaction. I didn't. I was very lucky. And in that waiting area, they have this array of chairs. There were a bunch of people sitting, and all of us were facing this giant monitor at the front of the room. And it had the time on it so that everyone could be able to tell when their 15 minutes were up. But underneath the time was a little block of text that said, "Today is World Naked Gardening Day." And I was like, what is this? I remember thinking, quote, "I've got to tell my mom about this," because my mom is the only person I know who loves gardening and being naked more than pretty much anything else in the world. And so
It's her day.
So your
her
mom
day.
lives somewhere. Your mom lives somewhere quite rural, though, right? Also, so it's
she
like,
does, yes.
So you could conceivably always garden naked in rural Pennsylvania, right?
But it's nice to have a day specifically allotted for it. It turns
Right.
it into a
That's true.
celebration.
Also nice for
Yeah.
your neighbors to know when that day is.
Yes, there are multiple reasons.
To either deliberately put up or take down the blinds.
According to your neighbor's preference, yeah.
Yes.
So I thought that, but I was in the Javits Center. I couldn't really call and take my mask down. So then I got into the Uber on my way home and was just thinking about, like, okay, well, where are these national days coming from? What's the deal behind this? And so I did some digging, and this is the fact. Like, that's the preamble to the fact. So in my searching about World Naked Gardening Day, I learned that there are 11 federal holidays in the United States. So in my searching for World Naked Gardening Day, before I could talk to my mom, I learned that there are 11 federal holidays in the United States. These are the ones that we're probably most familiar with. I'm going to list them because I love lists. New Year's Day, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, President's Day, which was originally just supposed to be celebrating George Washington's birthday, Memorial Day, 4th of July, or Independence Day, or as I call it, like White Men's Independence Day, Labor Day, Columbus Day, Veterans Day, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. Those are the 11. And they're called federal holidays because it's the days when federal employees were able to take off of work. And I looked this up just because I was interested. There are about 2 million federal employees, but the government pays more than 9 million people in the U.S., like more than about 6% of the U.S. population, because that 2 million doesn't include contract or grant employees of the government, and it doesn't include...
Hi.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure all of us qualify.
Right. So that's the history behind federal holidays. Those 11 days are designated by Congress, and employers typically give off those same holidays, but they aren't required to, which is interesting. And some states are recognizing quote-unquote new holidays like Juneteenth, which I would have taken off anyway, but New York now considers it a holiday. And other states and governments are getting hip to the fact that Columbus doesn't deserve a holiday, and so there are changes around that, which are good. I'll say that. But
and like converting it to like Indigenous Peoples Day, which is
Yeah, and then for some reason in New York, it's also Italian American Day. I think I saw an article about that.
That was their movement to separate it from Columbus because in New York especially has become an Italian holiday. It's like their St. Patrick's Day.
Right,
So the claim is. So that was the move to kind of...
There are many other Italian Americans worthy of a day.
Yeah.
Like so it's fine to not do that one.
Yeah.
And I think maybe it was the last time I mentioned this on the podcast, and possibly the only other time, was the last time you were here, which my birthday, May 20th, is the day that Columbus died. So I've always had sort of a moment of like, we got him.
I'm pretty sure I have a fact about May 20th that's coming up later, but okay.
Excellent.
Okay, well, we'll get to it. So those are the federal holidays, which are different from these national days, of which World Naked Gardening Day is one. So if you want to look up all of these national days, there is one calendar, the National Day Calendar, that can tell you about most of them. So the National Day Calendar, or the NDC, started as a blog in January of 2013 by a man named Marlo Anderson. So the NDC is a big deal. There are national news outlets. There are different, like 20,000 media outlets around the country who mine the NDC for content, for news content. So they will like have a direct line between the news and the NDC. So it started as a blog, and that little website has grown into a business based in Mandan, North Dakota. According to an article that I read in preparation for this, was the 7th largest city in North Dakota. Back in 2017.
Back in 2017. Nice.
Mm-hmm. And, lots of things have fluctuated since then, so I don't know if it's still the 7th, but around there is probably a safe bet.
Top 8. Definitely top 8.
With any luck, it's plummeted to number 17.
Yes, we can only hope.
The holiest number. So the NDC compiles existing national holidays or national days. For example, National Ice Cream Day was established in 1984 by then President Ronald Reagan. I'm pretty sure, during a national dairy surplus. Like they had too much cheese and too much dairy, and it was the summer. It was July, and so July was National Ice Cream Month, and July 17th, I think, is National Ice Cream Day.
And also Yellow Pig Day.
Oh, wow.
Also,
That's a good day.
July's a busy time.
Well, ice cream eaten
Stacked.
on that day is from pig milk.
Good to know.
Oh.
Good to know.
But yeah, that's the surplus that gave us government cheese, as I recall.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Caves and caves of extra cheese to drive the price of milk stable.
Are we out of the
ridiculous.
cheese now? Have we eaten the cheese?
That's a great question. I think no. But I think we're still stockpiling it. But it's less of a thing now because they've stabilized the price of milk in other ways. But that was done explicitly to control demand, to like pull the levers of the economy and wrestle the invisible hand and all that. What Reagan era nonsense. Yeah.
Government cheese and National Ice Cream Day both doing good work for the dairy industry. So that's an old one that was established before the blog started, but there are also new ones that get added over time, like International Red Sneakers Day, which was just proclaimed earlier today, like the day that we are recording this episode, and will be celebrated every May 20th.
Get out!
Oh, I am gonna wear the. I don't have any, but you know what?
You should get some. You can wear them every year.
Everybody on May 20th wear red sneakers in honor of my birthday and the death of Columbus.
Only appropriate way to celebrate those two things at once.
Yeah.
So the website obviously is not the ultimate authority on holidays because anyone can just declare any holiday they want. I could say I want tomorrow to be like clean your puppy's butt day, and just because I declared it,
so be it. It is decreed.
So yeah, we could do that. We could just make that announcement, which we just did. But typically, when people don't have access to really awesome podcasts with lots of listeners to get the word out, then there's an advertising and marketing issue when it comes to just announcing a holiday that you want to exist.
Right.
So the website NDC helps a lot with marketing and advertising. The national days are regularly the top trending topic on social media, and like I said before, media sources and outlets around the country use this calendar to get stuff to talk about because like a lot of news channels are operating like many hours out of the day, and I imagine it's easy to run out of things to talk to, so this calendar is helpful.
Right.
There is a process for applying to get a new national day recognized. The NDC gets about 20,000 applications or requests every single year, but they only accept about 25. And the process for what gets accepted and who is actually going through all of these applications, it's kind of murky. It's not a very transparent process, although the registration form is fairly straightforward. You fill it out on their site, and it's just information like, what is this day? When do you want it to be? What's your justification for having this be a national day? And then you either hear from them or you don't. And if you hear from them, it means you're one of the 25. So you should feel really lucky.
Wow. How many?
Like 20,000 people
usually
applying.
Jeez.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's ridiculous numbers.
That's like college.
It is.
Yeah, worse.
Yeah, this
Worse.
is a
Oh my
very
goodness.
prestigious position to have one of your national days recognized by the NDC.
Right.
Yeah.
College counselors should say that. They should be like, hey, this is going to be tough, but it's not even close to as hard as getting a national holiday recognized in the NDC.
Yeah.
Put it in perspective.
Yeah, you think you have it bad? Red shoes had to apply multiple times.
Are there any known like criteria of an exemplary holiday that they're likely to actually choose, or is that all murky as well?
It is pretty murky, but they say on the website that they want to avoid focusing or naming days after individual brands and more on items. So instead of a National Starbucks Day, they would have National Coffee Day because it's more general and more relatable to more people. That's what they want because they want people to be celebrating these days, or at least they want people to put
I
stock
see.
in these days because that's how the website makes money. These national days actually are often used as marketing ploys by big companies, and the NDC is currently only accepting applications or registration forms from companies and organizations. So individual people can't apply to get national days anymore. And they said that it's because they're backed up, which, I get. You have tens of thousands of applications and you're combing through them, but it's definitely a little bit sus that they're taking the applications from these big companies that can pay them more money, because you do have to pay a fee to get your application even looked at, and there's a fee range. It was kind of hard for me to find the actual amount because I think that it ranges based on how many times you want the proclamation to happen. So if you, back in the olden days when you could be an individual person asking, in the olden days, when you could be an individual asking for one of these national days, you could pay about $20 for a one-time proclamation. So the website could say, one time, all right, this is National Noah Day, right? But if you want a more formal and public proclamation by Marlo Anderson, or if you want it to be up on the website for a long time, you're going to have to pay potentially thousands of dollars to get your day recognized as a national day, which sucks. It's definitely something that I don't feel great about because it's connected into, like companies just being able to make up holidays to drive their sales, but whatever. That's what a lot of holidays are connected to these days.
Yeah.
It does feel like there's a national day for everything. When you go through the list of the more than 1,500 national days that are listed on the NDC, you see some ridiculous ones, like National Spicy Hermit Cookie Day on November 15th.
No, what is that? What are they?
I know what you're thinking because I looked at this and thought the exact same thing. Why are people making cookies out of hermit crabs? But
That's exactly what I thought. That's exactly what I thought.
I know it is, Noah. Because we are part of a small, very special group of weirdos who immediately think of hermit crabs.
Who immediately think of hermit crabs.
But apparently a hermit cookie is just like a normal baked good. It's a cookie with lots of nuts and dried fruits like raisins in it. And you can find cool, spicy hermit cookie recipes pretty easily online, especially if you want to celebrate this day on November 13th. There's also a National Paranormal Day, which I was very upset about because it's in May. It's on May 3rd every year. And I was like, how are you going to have a paranormal day and it's nowhere near Halloween? But then I started thinking about old Celtic, like pagan calendars, and May 3rd is right around the same time as Beltane, or Beltane if you're gonna say it the Irish way.
That's literally just means
May.
May.
It's just like the May festival. But it is the Celtic pagan celebration of the coming of summer. That's when they would put cattle out into the fields. So it was the beginning of the pastoral summer, and there were a lot of rituals done to protect cattle and people from the fair folk who might want to meddle in things, and from other supernatural beings who maybe don't have our best interest in mind. So I can get behind National Paranormal Day being on May 3rd. There's also National Get Out of the Doghouse Day on July 19th that follows just a few days after National Pet Fire Safety Day on July 15th. So there is some pretty concerning order to the madness here. And there's even
and then 2 days later is National Collect Your Dog House Insurance Policy Day, and
yes, it follows a progression. There's also a National Nothing Day, an unholiday or an unevent to give people a break from all of this celebrating and honoring. It happens on January 16th, which I agree is a time after a lot of very stressful holidays all smushed together in a short time period. So thank you for National Nothing Day. Just like the federal or religious holidays that many of us are probably more familiar with, some of these national days are attached to specific dates, like Red Shoes Day is always going to be on May 20th, but others are attached to calendar positions, like maybe the third Saturday of the month or something, like World Naked Gardening Day, which is celebrated on the first Saturday of every May. And so I did eventually call my mom to tell her about what I learned, and it turns out my mom already knew about World Naked Gardening Day. I shouldn't have been surprised, but she said that it was too cold to celebrate.
Oh.
Yeah, she said she's up in Maine where it was in like the 40s or 50s on Naked Gardening Day, so she did not celebrate this year. Yeah, so now you all don't have to think about my naked mom.
Thanks, everyone. All that remains now is our quiz. And today's quiz is a little bit holidated. Every question is going to be related to some holiday. And as we like to say, it is loosely inspired. So let's see where this takes us.
Curious.
So we'll start on solid ground, a definitive holiday on the calendar question. And then we'll just kind of see where it goes. We'll just feel this one out.
It's a journey. Love it.
All right, so question number 1. What poorly understood spring holiday is the result of a Roman and Celtic holiday combination that was rooted out by early American Puritans, but brought back by 2 separate waves of both wealthy reformers and labor leaders?
I would have guessed Easter until you said labor very pointedly.
Same.
So all of that is red herrings. Basically,
everything is red herrings.
Yeah, essentially, the most important thing here is that there's a Roman Celtic holiday that was in the U.S., and then it kind of went away, but it is kind of more popular in the 1900s.
Now, let me just ask a question. When you say Celtic, do you mean sort of broadly Western European, or do you mean Irish and Britannic?
You actually already mentioned this Celtic holiday.
Oh,
first day.
So Beltane.
Yes.
Beltane.
Cool.
Oh.
And it's related to, I can tell you the Roman holiday was Floralia.
Ooh.
Ooh, I like that.
May Day?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, duh. Oh my gosh,
so,
of course.
Interesting.
And so what's amazing about May Day is the story, because
amazing.
But so I've never really understood May Day and May crownings and May queens, but they happen. They've been all around me, and I've met some of them. They're very nice people.
Yeah.
But so May 1st is or has been a celebration of flowers. And it kind of solidified into one holiday from those Roman Celtic roots around in the late hundreds to 1000 CE. And it was celebrated a lot. It's an Anglo-Saxon tradition, a big English tradition, which really was only suspended during the Civil War. It was reinstated when the Stuarts took power again.
The English Civil War.
Yes, the English Civil War of the 1600s, not ours.
That was important context.
When the Stuarts took power of the United States.
I mean, not
just,
totally wrong.
After the American interregna.
But so it was an English thing, and Americans kind of did or did not practice it, and it really came down to the fact that the Puritans hated it. And May Day, if you have not seen it, there's a poll.
Puritans hate a poll.
I mean, they really do, though. But there are people holding strings attached to the pole. There's a child who's kind of there's a parade. There's flowers. This really reflects how little I bothered to look up about May Day itself. But so there was a lot of celebration, and the Puritans hated it. And there was one British businessman who tried to bring it with him to the United States, and the nearby Puritan settlement tore down the pole, sent all the people away, and actually exiled him back to England irreversibly. They said, "You're not welcome in the United States, you May Day celebrating heathen."
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
So it was kind of down for a while. It wasn't a big U.S. holiday. And what actually happened was, again, disappointingly, with immigration in the 1800s, Anglo-Saxon Americans were like, oh, people here are not behaving very Anglo-Saxony. We should bring back May Day. Just so.
That's always been the main problem in America.
Yeah. Well,
the lack of Anglo-Saxon influence.
Right? But there are letters written by kind of rich reformers saying oh, we see these people are drinking and spending money and celebrating in all the wrong ways, and they should celebrate in the right ways, May Day.
May Day.
And so they brought these kind of rich reformers in the 1800s brought May Day back, and made it this very pure and kind of idealized holiday where there were children and festivities and daylight and flowers and not drinking and debauchery. And that was their picture.
Yawn.
Yeah, right? But simultaneously, May 1st became a date synonymous with labor leaders in the United States. And actually, the 1867 Chicago strike, which was the strike for U.S. workers to get an 8-hour workday, happened on May 1st. Subsequent strikes happened annually around May 1st. And in 1889, just as May Day was kind of gaining popularity as a union, basically like striking workers' rights day in the United States, it actually gained hold with the International Socialist Congress in France, where they adopted May 1st based on how Americans had used it. And they made a worldwide demonstration in 1890 that was scheduled by what was becoming the AFL. Unfortunately, that made it really unpopular in the U.S. as folks like Eugene Debs pushing socialism and World War I started to roll around. And so the socialist connotations of May Day got stomped down, and all we're left with is the kind of lily-white Anglo-Saxon May Day that is more or less, I would say, the tradition as it continues. So that's like the kind of really ridiculous roller coaster of May Day in the United States. But to end on a high note, in Hawaii, since 1926, May Day is Lay Day.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice.
And you get a flowery lay.
Do y'all know why people say May Day when like their plane or ship's going down?
No, but I was going to ask, so I'm very excited.
It's French for help me. May Day.
Oh.
Oh.
Anyway,
So,
next
yeah,
question. Question 2.
Taking a hard left turn. Question 2. American Express actually owns the trademark of what commercial holiday celebrated on a holiday-laden autumn weekend? So it's a weekend with numerous festivities, one more serious, perhaps, or more official than the others.
In the fall?
In the fall. And American Express owns the trademark, owns the name of this holiday.
All right, fall holidays. There's obviously Thanksgiving.
Commercial
Halloween.
holiday, I'll point out.
Commercial. Oh, is it Black Friday?
So it's not Black Friday, but
Oh,
That was a good one.
That was a good
you're
guess.
very close.
Yeah.
Cyber Monday.
Also super close.
Oh, come on.
Small Business Tuesday.
You're off by 2 days.
Yeah.
Is it the Giving Tuesday? Is it before?
No, it's
okay.
Emily's modifier. It's small business
Wednesday?
Sunday?
Saturday.
Thursday.
So they really spent their money well on this one.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
so it's
Good.
It's-
I'm glad we don't know that.
yeah,
Good for us.
it's excellent.
Fuck American Express. I said it. Enemy of the pod.
Maybe we'll stop getting those credit cards.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Amex owns Small Business Saturday. It's recent. It's from 2010. And so Black Friday appears to have kind of happened organically. Stores just started doing it. It built up its own thing. Cyber Monday was founded in 2005 by the National Retail Federation, and that kind of built out the kind of tech side of the Thanksgiving weekend sales. And then in 2010, Amex was like, it would look really good supporting small business, said every politician since then. And so they made Small Business Saturday, which has in fact driven up shopping in small businesses in the United States. It's promoted pretty heavily like the weekend of Thanksgiving, but clearly does not have the staying power of any of the other days. And so that's part of that whole kind of weekend of shopping is Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, and Cyber Monday. And I prefer a different Thanksgiving holiday package, which is Wanksgiving, Thanksgiving, and Franksgiving.
Well, I'm gonna need some explanation.
Sure. So it's a wonderful mnemonic. So Wanksgiving is Wednesday, Thanksgiving
Okay.
is Thursday, and Franksgiving is Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And then on Wanksgiving you get wasted. On Thanksgiving you give thanks.
Interesting.
And on Franksgiving you see friends.
Well, I know that we have listeners in the UK, and I am not sure that's how they just interpreted that.
To be totally honest with you, I thought you were saying wangs. Like you eat a lot of
Did we get
wings.
some wings?
Yeah, get some wings.
Nice.
Wingsgiving.
Totally down for that interpretation too. Oh, it's another hot Wanksgiving.
Buffalo Wild Wanks.
Ah, no.
Uh,
Oh,
No.
God.
Oh my God.
question number 3. What 2000 song contains the lyric, "I beg to dream and differ from the hollow lies. This is the dawning of the rest of our lives."
Boulevard of Broken Dreams.
This is the dawning of the rest of our pies.
So, Moiya, you're one track off.
Oh, is it Wake Me Up When September Ends?
It's
No,
Holiday.
That's a different album, I
God
think.
damn it.
It
It's
is Holiday.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that one. That makes sense.
On
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Holiday.
bow out now.
So both Holiday and Boulevard of Broken Dreams are back-to-back on the album American Idiot by Green Day. They're actually in the same key and they fade into one another, and the music video is somewhat continuous by the same artistic director.
Okay.
But the song Holiday, if I've often kind of wondered but never looked up, what are they talking about? This doesn't sound like a holiday as I know it. So I read about what Billy Joe Armstrong was thinking about. He said he took months to finish the lyrics on this song because they got the riff and they had the idea, and he just hated the lyrics and he kept rewriting it. And so when he says, "This is our lives on holiday," it was intended to basically say, this is what it's like to live in the modern United States. This is the George Bush United States. And everyone's so apathetic. They're so checked out that they're not even paying attention to government. This is just your life on holiday, meaning like on autopilot,
Okay.
which was
Interesting.
absolutely never how I interpreted it. Like, I have a really hard time feeling that way about the song. But yeah, so the song and the video are very critical of the then government of the United States, which I think would have fit and has been kind of their platform recently.
Where has Green Day been? I feel like that's the...
On holiday.
Okay, so question number 4. You can visit the Bon Am Tuk boat rowing contest, Kiraram for some tea, or Siem Reap, the second largest city, on a day off in what country with the most holidays per year? And I should also tell you, my pronunciation is not to be trusted here.
Okay.
And, I respectfully have done my best, but it's,
Okay.
yeah.
I was thinking something in like Southeast Asia when you said it the first time.
Yeah, like Indonesia. Or
Yeah, or like Thailand.
Those are both good guesses. I would move a little bit, I would think north and west.
Oh gosh.
Cambodia?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Nice.
Good to know.
So those are words I think in all the Khmer language, and
Okay.
and so yeah, Cambodia has in different years 28 or 29 holidays a year, basically a full month of holidays every year.
Amazing.
yeah.
Pretty
Love
dope,
that.
yeah. Which beats Sri Lanka, which is next with typically 26. And then the list gets a little bit hazy. There are different lists in different places, and
Right.
but so Cambodia on every list has the most holidays. But yeah, a number of other interesting days that they do celebrate includes the festival of the boat racing. So there's a festival where it's the largest rowing race in the world. Where people come together in long rowboats, similar to kind of like cruise shells. And it's a race insofar as that everyone's trying to get to the finish line, but I don't think it's actually a competitive race. I think it's more of like a fun run sort of rowing race, which is very, very cool.
Nice.
I like that more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
That's really
And
cool.
then there are other festivals, not even counted from what I can tell, is the Kite Flying Festival for November and December, the Silkworm Festival in September, the Chinese New Year Festival, and they have a lot of just really good holidays. Like Cambodia, they celebrate. Question number 5, and definitely in the running for my favorite question of the night. July 11th, 2020 was the 2020 World Championship running of the blanks.
Wait, nobody say bulls.
Alarms go off.
He's trying to get us.
But yeah, running of the blanks, and it's in Bathhouse Row in Hot Springs National Park, Arkansas. And this is, I can't really figure, there's no specific tie to...
The name of the town?
There's a slight connection, but I'd say it's not enough to get you there. And if you wanted to think, what would be one of the most difficult things in your house to compete in a race in?
Is it like a bathtub down a hill?
It is tub racing.
Let's go!
So this event, which is amazing, is an annual event where you fashion there are like 7 categories, and one is just speed, one is like showmanship, one is like humor. They're just crazy. And you put essentially you put a bathtub on wheels, and then it's a flat surface. So there
on
are no
wheels.
hills.
It's not even like, oh, no hills.
Yeah,
oh,
so
okay.
it's a flat race.
Okay.
And then you run. Basically, there's one person in the tub and a team of runners. Kind of like you're doing a bobsled race, but
yeah.
you never jump in. You just run.
Ooh, it'd be interesting if there was like a preset amount of water in there, and it's like one of the qualifications of like how you win is like most water still in the tub.
Yeah.
But there's like a bunch of insane curves, so you can take it fast and like finish first, but you might lose some of the water. Yeah.
I love that. You should be in charge of these games.
Yeah. So the people who run this event though are. They look awesome. I would love to talk to them and be with them as friends and just
lovers.
Yeah, whatever's appropriate, I'll do it. So the police and fire departments participate in this race as racers and as kind of like security, and they volunteer. They have a fire hose at the end, so they like gently spray participants with like an arc of water. It looks like just the most interesting festival. I know it's very odd, but. So in 2020, I gave you the date in 2020. It was July 20th, later than usual. It's usually in May. And I want to read you this statement from an event.
Wait, they did it in 2020.
They did it. They just pushed it back to July.
During COVID.
Yeah, in May, people were nervous. And yeah, I want to read you this this statement for a competition that is literally bolting a bathtub onto axles and wheels. They said, in an abundance of caution, brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic, we decided to move the race to July. And while I respect the public health move, and cases in Arkansas were lower in July than they were in May, I doubt anything about the event could be described as an abundance of caution. There is a scarcity of caution at every turn in this race.
Oh, wow. How many turns are there?
I think it's a straight line. I think it's like...
Oh, okay. So
that's good.
Yeah.
So that's why there's no caution.
Yeah.
The caution only appears at the turn.
There's also no indication of there being breaks. So it's just people like stopping over a long period of time.
Well, to be fair, it is a straight shot. They could just let go of the tub.
Yeah, but there's a person inside.
Well,
so
that's just how they go.
That's the price you pay.
I'll see you in Oklahoma, basically.
All right, we're almost through. We're on question number 6. What Bing Crosby film, considered by AFI to be among the best musical films ever, introduced the songs White Christmas, Happy Holidays, and the Easter Parade?
Isn't the movie White Christmas?
So White Christmas is a song in the movie White Christmas, but that's not what introduced the song.
Oh no, there's ones like Let It Snow or something too. Oh god.
And so my hint for this one is that the name of the movie is also the name of a hospitality chain.
Was it Best Western the movie?
No.
No? Okay.
Is it Red Roof Inn, the movie? Like
No, but we're on the right track,
Marriott.
but I don't think we're going to get there.
Motel 6, the sequel?
Motel 7.
Yeah, exactly.
To tell. So
okay, but it is like, okay, so it's like a hotel.
Holiday Inn?
yes.
Oh.
And
I'm
so
at the hotel.
Motel Holiday Inn.
Okay.
So yeah. So I assume none of you are familiar with Holiday Inn, the movie.
No.
Okay, so to set it aside from White Christmas for a second, White Christmas is a movie where 2 singer-dancers and their singing-dancing like love interests move up to Vermont or New Hampshire to open, or to an old army general's like hotel, and they make a show there. Whereas this is about 2 New York dancer types that move to Connecticut and open a hotel where they can do shows there. So
Right.
super different. Can't believe you mixed them up.
I mean, I don't know if this is addressed in the show, but why they would move from New York to do a show.
Yes. So it is addressed. It's kind of, so the crux of the movie is like, oh, this New York life's so tough, like whatever. And they're like, let's move up to peaceful Connecticut where this like lovely woman is. But they're like, come on, Tommy, you can get folks up from the city for a long weekend. Yeah, of course. We can make this a whole thing. And so basically they do a dance number for every 3-day weekend on the calendar year, which includes like, it's like Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter. They do everything that comes up. Valentine's Day. Irving Berlin has like a dumb, cutesy, American-ish song for all of them. And it's literally just Irving Berlin being like, let me write another holiday song. Let me write like a Memorial Day carol, like whatever. And like, it's a cute movie, and there's a lot of like, and like it is like a very good musical movie. There's a lot of incredible dancing and things like that. But it introduced the songs White Christmas and Happy Holidays, which we consider like these holiday staples. For Happy Holidays was actually the New Year's song, not the Christmas song. So kind of an interesting display for all of these songs that were written that have kind of really ingrained themselves into culture.
Cool.
Yeah. 2 questions left. Okay. Number 7. In 1983, Holiday was what artist's first song to crack the Billboard Hot 100?
1983?
Mm-hmm. It was on this artist's first and eponymous album, their breakthrough album. She is famous. And I'll give you the first 2 lyrics of the song.
Okay, that would be very helpful.
Holiday.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Celebrate.
Oh, I feel like I can hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like when you walk on a cruise ship, it's playing in the background always.
Does it kind of sound like celebrate?
I don't think so.
It's
It's like holiday.
Yeah.
Celebrate.
Oh, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You can
I
take
That's what I'm
can
saying.
hear it.
Shoot,
Yeah.
yeah.
Holiday, celebrate. Is it not?
Oh, that was the same.
That's what I was attempting to do that.
Is it? It's not. No, it's not. We Are Family.
It does
So
sound a
she-
lot like that, doesn't it?
We
So
are
she is
family.
very famous
Holiday,
for
celebrate.
slightly more. Her songs are more styled than this. There's an interesting story why she even sang this in the first place, but this was literally a filler track just to like release the album. So
no
it's
idea.
a
Is
dance.
she still alive?
Still alive. Has done a Super Bowl in the last 10 years.
Oh, okay.
10 might be pushing it. It might be 12.
Beyonce
actually.
was like famous as a child, basically.
It's not a Beyonce
Could be
song.
83. Y'all, I don't think we know. I think we might need to
Okay.
give up unless anybody has any.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah, so-
Like, I am about to just start listing
Right.
people.
Yeah.
And that's not.
All right,
But that's
we'll give
actually
up.
might work here. But this was the breakthrough song for Madonna.
If we had just
Yep.
started listing, we might have.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would have been.
Okay.
This is kind of a ridiculous story that Madonna had not released like her big songs yet. This was like the album that like kind of pushed her over. It was Madonna, the album, and she didn't have enough material. She had like a bunch of hits, and then it was like whatever 8 tracks, and they said you got to hit 10 or whatever her producer told her. And these are some clips from the Wikipedia page about this. John Jellybean Benitez, a DJ at Funhouse Disco, was called in to remix her tracks, and Benitez discovered a new song written by Curtis Hudson and Lisa Stevens of the pop group Pure Energy. So the song Holiday had been turned down by Phyllis Hyman and Mary Wilson of the Supremes, and so the writers reached out to Benitez to see if he could use it, and he said, yeah, I've got this girl. She's got some good stuff. I bet she can do something with this and put it on her album. And it turned into Holiday.
Yeah, by Beyonce.
All right. But we are there on the 8th and final question of our holiday quiz. What strange fruit artist was born Eleanor Fagan and died at the age of 44, winning all of her Grammys posthumously?
Billie Holiday.
That's it. Yeah, so Lady Day passed away in 1959 at the age of 44. 1959, the year that the Grammys began releasing awards. Most
Wow.
of her awards came 25 and 50 years later for historical
Wow.
contributions to music.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even that she had necessarily won one. She was one of the most popular jazz artists of her time. The Grammys were not necessarily interested or rewarding jazz music at that time either. So her impact on music was immediate and evident, especially in the jazz scene and especially in Harlem and New York. But kind of her impact on music in general wasn't recognized by the Grammys for years and years. But yeah, just an incredible talent, Billie Holiday. If I had thought about this, I wouldn't have ended on the death of a hero, but that's my bad.
Well, deaths of heroes are often causes for a holiday.
That is true.
True.
Yeah.
So
What a-
all we need is holiday day.
yeah, Billie Holiday.
Yeah,
Maybe Fax Machine as an organization can apply to get this as a national
absolutely.
Mm.
Yes. Finally, a reason to LLC ourselves.
Oh, there we go. But yeah, that was our show. So thank you for listening. And Moiya, as always, it was wonderful to have you on this episode.
Thank you for coming.
day. Thanks for having me.
Welcome home.
I know a lot
That's
more about
wonderful.
holidays now. Welcome home.
And
Yeah.
so do we, thanks to you.
And Moiya, in this late summer time, is there anything that you want to plug or tell us about?
No, this summer I am working on my book, which is going to come out next year or maybe 2023. It's about the evolution of the Milky Way. But right now, the only thing I have out that you can look up is ExoLore, the podcast, available wherever you get it. ExoLore.
Definitely, and you should do so.
Absolutely.
Thank
And
you.
if we were to follow you on social media, could you give us your handles for that?
Oh, yes, I'm on the interwebs. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram, but like mostly Twitter because that's where the words are, at GoAstroMo. And my website is MoiyaMcTier.com if you don't like social media but still want to catch up with what I'm doing.
And you can find Moiya's book.
Also on the website,
Moiya's
MoiyaMcTier.com.
novel/undergraduate thesis. Both, academic knowledge, demonstrating her academic knowledge of exoplanets, and also ethnographic research in Hawaii on Moiya McTier. Was it .com?
MoiyaMcTier.com.
Oh,
yeah.
it's MoiyaMcTier.com.
And a little bonus nugget about that science fiction novel. There's a chapter in there that when I turned it in to my college advisor for the first draft, was just entitled Lesbian Rom-Com Chapter.
Amazing.
I took it out. I changed the title for the final draft, but if you read it, you have that to look forward to.
The best plug.
Moiya, of many firsts people list about you, and if your double major and your PhD, they should include first person to submit a thesis with a chapter lesbian rom-com at Harvard.
Yes.
Oh, wow. And so for the rest of us, you can find my thesis in my parents' basement and on my advisor's shelf. And
nowhere else.
It.
Yeah.
Yep. 2 copies. But seriously, no. If you like this podcast, check out our website, faxmachinepodcast.com, and please follow us on social media, where you can find us on Instagram and Twitter at FaxMachinePod and on Facebook at FaxMachinePodcast. And if you want to follow us individually, I'm Sweatervest SCI, Noah,
At Arcs and Sciences.
and M.
At _EM Costa, please tweet at me about Yellow Pig Day. Thanks.
17!
Fax Machine is produced by Rob Frawley, Noah Giberson, and Emily Costa, with editing by Noah Giberson. Our theme music is by Anthony Antonelli, and our logo is designed by Mike Zola. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Bye!
Bye!
That waveform looks large. That's nice.